Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. It is Friday, September 6th. Football is back. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the entire NFL slate other than Monday Night Football, including the game tonight in Sao Paulo, Brazil, between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles, a game that I had the Packers winning 31-28. In this segment, we are going to do a few more predictions, this time taking our attention to the college football world as week 2 heats up. There are a bunch of really good games, a couple games that might have upset potential. We're going to talk about all of them in just a second, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, spending your Friday talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get into some college football preview predictions. I got 10 games hot off the press for you guys. And we're going to start off in what I think is going to be one of the more intriguing matchups of all of Saturday, that being Boise State taking on number 7 Oregon. What makes this one so intriguing to me is obviously I went to I went to a group of 5 school that I think has a chance of making the playoffs. So paying attention to some of these group of 5 contenders like Boise State is something that I'm just keeping my eye on in the past, just in general. But also, Ashton Jeanty coming off of a 267-yard, 6-touchdown game. The Oregon Ducks coming off a game where they almost lost to Idaho, an FCS school, only escaping with a 10-point victory, which would have been one of the biggest upsets in the history of college football. At one point, only being up 3 points in that fourth quarter. Not where you want to be as a program that was ranked number 3 in the nation heading into week 1. But this game should be a lot of fun. Part of why Oregon was struggling so much was their offensive line, was their lack of being able to get a run game. They had 2.9 yards per carry against Idaho, and the offensive line was not helpful in that. Their defense, as you expect, was able to do their thing against an FCS opponent. It's going to be interesting when you go up against a Boise State team that they put up almost 60 points against a scrappy Sun Belt team. The Sun Belt is one of the best group of 5 conferences, and that was a great game. Now, I do think Ashton Jeanty isn't going to be able to run for 300 yards and 6 touchdowns against this Oregon defense, but I would need to see more out of this offense as far as finishing drives. Threw the ball for 50 times for 350 yards, but they were only able to put up 24 points. It's not what you want to see if you're Oregon. This is a big bounce back game. I think they'll be able to do it, although this one is absolutely on upset alert. Right now, Oregon is favored by 21 points. I think they will cover. Maybe. I think this Oregon defense is going to do enough against Boise State, and that Boise State defense did not look very good. This is going to be a shootout of a game. If the Oregon defense can step up, they'll win. This is either going to be a 21-45 game, something like that, or it's going to be like a 55-62 game, right? These two offenses will get things done, whether it's because the defense on the other side is bad or because that offense is simply good. It's going to be a really fun game to watch. High scoring. I'm very excited for this one. I do have Oregon winning, though. Up next, maybe the biggest game of the week. Number 3, Texas, heads up to the Big House to take on number 10, Michigan, a Michigan team that I am a lot lower on. Their 2 quarterbacks didn't look good. Neither Warren or Orji looked very good last week against Fresno State, only able to put up 30 points total. One of them was a pick 6 to really seal the game. Texas looked really good. I think Texas, who is currently favored by 7 points, is able to go up into the Big House one of the best home field advantages in all of college sports, and take care of business. This is only the second ever meeting between these two programs. The last one, Texas won by 1 point on a 38-37 victory in 2005, almost 20 years ago at this point. This one should be a lot of fun. I'm leaning towards Texas, though, 31-20. Arkansas taking on Oklahoma State, number 16 Oklahoma State. They beat they beat the best FCS school last week. Oklahoma State does 44-20. They do their job. Ollie Gordon, 3 touchdowns, cementing himself firmly in that Heisman race with a couple of other guys, Ashton Genty, Tetroa McMullen, T-Mac over there in Arizona, Travis Hunter, who we'll talk a little bit about later, but Heisman race is a lot of ways to go. Cam Ward in Miami. Arkansas won 70-0 against Pine Bluff. They're a team that won 4 games last year. Do I think that they're going to be able to beat Oklahoma State? No. Do I think they'll be able to get within that 10-point spread that is currently at? Absolutely. If this is a game that I think is primed for upset potential. I think if the Arkansas defense is real, that's when we're going to see, because it's a little tough when you're comparing, South Dakota State to Arkansas Pine Bluff. One of those teams is a lot better than the other. I'm still leaning towards Oklahoma State, 27-41, although this is another game that could be very close. Up next, Kansas State taking on Tulane. K-State, the number 17 ranked team in the nation, 9-point favorites. Tulane is another one of those group of 5 teams that are vying for that 12 seed in the college football playoffs. They looked really good in week 1 after losing their coach, losing their quarterback, losing a lot of people to the transfer portal. They win 55-0. Good job by Tulane. I think this one's going to be close. I think Tulane, especially at home in New Orleans, is going to be able to put up a bit of a fight. I think Tulane still falls in this one, but I think they get within 9, make it a close game, 30-24, Kansas State able to hold off one of the best group of 5 teams in the nation. And this is another one that I think is interesting. Number 23, Georgia Tech, heading into New York to take on the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse picks up Kyle McCord, former starter at Ohio State last year. He looked really good in week 1. I know everyone kind of piled on Kyle McCord as a freshman. He was a freshman last year. He looked comfortable in week 1 as a Syracuse Orange, passing for over 300 yards. It's going to be good if he can click. This Syracuse team has the potential to be a dark horse ACC candidate when we talk about the way the ACC is looking with, Miami at the top, Florida State falling. I like Louisville a lot, but outside of Miami, there's not really a clear number 2. Is it going to be Syracuse? Is it going to be Georgia Tech? Is it going to be NC State? Is it going to be Louisville? Which one of these guys is going to claim that number 2 spot in the ACC? This is going to be a huge game to figure that out, and I'm leaning towards Syracuse in this one. I think Syracuse's defense looked really good. Georgia Tech has been really impressive, but I think Syracuse is going to be able to slow down that run game. If they can deal with a running quarterback, which has been the reason why Haynes King and the rest of Georgia Tech has started off 2-0, and I'm becoming less and less impressed by that Florida State win as time continues. I definitely think Georgia Tech is better than Boston College, but Boston College even looked better against Florida State than Georgia Tech did, which is a little shocking to me. But all of that said, I think Syracuse is going to pull this upset off, winning 23-21 at home. This is going to be a really good game this week as well. Then we get an in-state rivalry between Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa coming off a 40-point performance. They haven't put up that many points in like 30 years. It's a bit of a hyperbole there, but it's been a long time since Iowa's offense has been able to do much of anything. They put up 40 points. Cade McNamara, the 5th-year transfer coming into Iowa, going with that vaunted defense. No one in this matchup that lost in the last 5 years has scored more than 17 points. this is going to be a low-scoring game. Both of these teams have great defenses. Iowa State is returning more offensive production than anybody else in the entire country. Iowa is ranked number 21 in the nation after putting up points, and I am not one to shy away from an Iowa team that can score points. I think it's going to be a little harder to score points when you go up against Iowa State as opposed to an FCS team, but I do think they still get this win, 20-14. They're currently 3-point favorites. Then we get another fun one. Virginia Tech taking on Marshall. Virginia Tech is a 20.5-point favorite in this one. Even after a loss to Vanderbilt in overtime, Kyron Drones had cramps at the end of the game, which is why he wasn't able to play. If he's fully healthy, they have a much better chance. He looked really good, going for over 300 yards. Is Virginia Tech real? They had a lot of hype coming into it. We talked about dark horse ACC candidates. Virginia Tech was arguably supposed to be that number 2, number 3. A lot of people had them in the college football playoffs, which I personally think is ridiculous. It's a little easier for me to say that out loud now that they've lost to Vanderbilt, but that's besides the point. Marshall is a very good Sun Belt team. I talk about the Sun Belt a lot. I went to James Madison University, member of the Sun Belt. I know the Sun Belt pretty good. This Virginia Tech team and this Marshall team match up pretty good against each other. I don't necessarily think Marshall's going to win. I do think 20 is a lot of points to be giving to Marshall. I'm taking Virginia Tech to win by just about 10-14. 35-21 is what I have written down, but I definitely think 20 is too much. Marshall is a scrappy, competitive team, and their defense is nothing to scoff at. Then we have one of the other big... These next 3 games are all really good. Another ranked matchup between Tennessee, number 14, and number 24, NC State. Tennessee is coming off a great game. Nico Loma-Leva looks awesome. And Tennessee, as a freshman, NC State did not look that good. They bring in Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. And again, Coastal, a Sun Belt school, Grayson McCall is incredibly overrated. Incredibly overrated. He's a fine quarterback, but he's incredibly overrated. NC State's going to lose this one in very convincing fashion. 42-14, Tennessee kicks NC State out of the top 25. Colorado taking on Nebraska. Nebraska is a 6-point favorite. Is Colorado's offensive line going to be better? Are they going to be able to run the ball? That offense is going to be able to get those explosive plays. We saw it against a really good North Dakota State defense. A solid North Dakota State offense, although I think Nebraska's offense is better, might be the difference. Dylan Raiola, young Mahomes, like he wants to be called, versus Shadur Sanders. It should be a lot of fun. I'm leaning towards Nebraska, 35-31. And the last game I wanted to talk about from this college football schedule is Clemson taking on App State at home. Clemson coming off of a shellacking from the number 1 team in the nation, Georgia. App State's really good. Again, another Sun Belt team. They're one of those group of 5 schools that I think could get that spot. Joey Aguilar, really, really underrated quarterback in the Sun Belt, has been with App State for a while. That Clemson defense, I think, was really impressive, especially in that first half against Georgia, holding them to just 6 points. I want to see if that offense can do things. I think that 16.5-point spread is a little much. I think App State has a real chance to win this game. I'm still going to give Clemson the benefit of the doubt because they went up against Georgia, but I need to see that offense do things. Clemson wins this one 27-30. A close game to end out our top 10 college games. Let me know if there's any game that I missed, any of these games that I predicted that you think I'm just dead wrong on. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish off our show doing our MLB Power Rankings. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.